Hi, I'm Avery Davidson.
And I'm Kristen Oaks-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. Well, you've almost certainly seen them along roadways, forests, and possibly even in your yard. Dead pine trees seem to be everywhere, and they are a threat.
As Twyla's Neil Melancon tells us, there's a legislative effort underway to get help with removing these trees before they come down on their own.
Mike Johnson isn't liking what he's seeing. Despite removing several pine trees from his property in Pineville, more of his pines are going to have to be removed after dying from last year's weather.
Those were trees that have died since I had 7 more removed. And my hope when I removed the 7 was that would stop it, but it hasn't.
Johnson says while he had the means to remove them himself, many in the state do not. That's why he's formed the Emergency Pine Beetle Subcommittee to see whether or not homeowners and municipalities can get some help to get these trees down.
And the average Louisiana citizen can't afford that. This is an unanticipated cost that is unavoidable because what we heard from the hearings just 2 weeks ago from some of the experts from LSU is that it's not a matter of if these trees will fall, but 100% of these trees that are infested will fall.
The culprit killing these big trees is this little beetle. Known as the IPS beetle, there are several variants that feed on dead and dying trees. Jim Meeker, an entomologist with the U.S. Forest Service, says last year was a feast for them like he's never seen.
It'll attack typically on the bark plates. You'll notice there are cracks and crevices in the bark, but IPS beetles attack on the plate where the bark is thickest, and you usually get a pitch response if there's any sort of defense left in the living tree, and it'll form a globular pitch tube or resin blob. And what we were seeing last summer and late fall and into the winter, that there was no pitch tube response whatsoever.
Normally, the pressure inside these trees from the sap keeps the beetles out, but with the drought, there was nothing stopping them from entering even still living trees. The good news is the beetles have died from their once boom.
It just continued to escalate month by month by month, and basically seemed to peak in January of 2024. And since then, with the return of frequent and relatively abundant, above normal rainfall, the beetle situation has basically crashed.
It's not a question of if, but when these trees come down, according to LFA Executive Director Buck Vandersteen.
Now, if you're a 40-acre landowner and have experienced complete loss of trees because of the drought, it is a significant thing. But to forest in total, we're going to be okay. The biggest impact we see is along homeowners' property, along power line rights of way, road rights of way, where these trees that have succumbed and have died.
Johnson says in the meantime, his committee will continue seeking help, but if you have the means, remove dead trees as soon as you can.
A couple of years ago when the hurricanes came through, we were without electricity for 1, 2, or 3 weeks. From all estimations from the utilities, the Public Service Commission, if just a fraction of these trees fall in the next hurricane, we could be out twice as long from electricity.
It can cost $2,000 or more to remove a tree of this size, and that's a lot, especially if you have 2 or 3 dead trees on your property. It's a lot for taxpayers to pick up as well, but you have to ask what the cost will be when these trees eventually do fall across roadways, houses, and power lines across the state. Reporting from Pineville, I'm Neil Melancon.
The next meeting of the Emergency Beetle Subcommittee will be on Wednesday, August 14th at 1 p.m. in House Committee Room 3.